Introduction. The Bible contains many stories and events that have fascinated people for centuries, and one of the most well-known and enigmatic stories is that of the burning bush. Found in the book of Exodus, the story tells of how God appeared to Moses in the form of a burning bush, and spoke to him, calling him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. The story has been interpreted in many different ways by scholars and theologians over the years, and has been the subject of much debate and discussion. In this essay, we will explore the story of the burning bush in the Bible, and examine its historical, cultural, and religious significance. The story of the burning bush. The story of the burning bush is found in the book of Exodus, which is the second book of the Hebrew Bible and the Old Testament of the Christian Bible. According to the story, Moses was tending his father-in-law's flock in the wilderness of Sinai when he saw a bush that was on fire, but was not being consumed by the flames. As he approached the bush to investigate, God spoke to him, calling him by name and telling him to remove his sandals because he was standing on holy ground. Then, God identified himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and told Moses that he had heard the cries of the Israelites in their bondage in Egypt, and had come down to rescue them and lead them to the land of Canaan, which he had promised to their ancestors. God told Moses that he had chosen him to be the leader of the Israelites, and commanded him to go to Pharaoh and demand that he release the Israelites from slavery. Moses was hesitant, and asked God how he could be expected to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, since he was not a skilled speaker and did not know how to convince Pharaoh to release them. God reassured Moses that he would be with him, and would give him the words to speak, and promised to perform miracles to demonstrate his power and convince Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. Moses continued to question God, asking for his name so that he could tell the Israelites who had sent him. God replied, "I am who I am," and told Moses to tell the Israelites that I am had sent him. God also gave Moses some signs to perform as proof of his divine commission, including turning his staff into a serpent. Historical and cultural context. The story of the burning bush takes place in the context of the Israelites' enslavement in Egypt. According to the biblical narrative, the Israelites had migrated to Egypt during a time of famine, and had initially been welcomed and granted land by the Pharaoh. However, over time, they came to be viewed as a threat by the ruling class, and were eventually enslaved and subjected to forced labor. The story of the burning bush takes place during the reign of a pharaoh who is not named in the Bible. Some scholars have suggested that this pharaoh may have been Ramses II, who ruled from approximately 1279 to 1213 BCE, based on similarities between the biblical account and historical records. However, there is no definitive proof of this identification, and other scholars have suggested alternative dates and identifications for the pharaoh in question. Regardless of the specific historical context, the story of the burning bush reflects the experience of oppression and resistance that was common among many ancient peoples. The image of the burning bush has been interpreted by some scholars as a symbol of the Israelites' suffering, but also their resilience and endurance in the face of adversity. Religious significance. The story of the burning bush is a pivotal moment in the history of the Israelites, as it marks the beginning of their liberation from slavery in Egypt. It also represents a key moment of revelation and communication between God and His chosen people. The identity of God as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob emphasizes the continuity of the Israelites' religious tradition, and links their current situation to their ancestors' covenant with God. The name that God gives to Moses, "I am who I am," has been the subject of much theological interpretation and debate, but is generally understood to represent God's eternal and unchanging nature. The story of the burning bush also establishes Moses as a central figure in the history of the Israelites, and as a prophet and leader chosen by God. Moses' reluctance to accept this role, and his questioning of God's plan, highlights the tension between human agency and divine will that is a recurring theme in the Bible. The miracles that God performs through Moses, including turning his staff into a serpent and making his hand leprous, serve as evidence of God's power and authority, and help to persuade the Israelites to follow Moses' leadership. These miracles are also emblematic of the supernatural events that occur throughout the Bible, and reflect the belief in a world that is constantly shaped by divine intervention. Interpretations and symbolism. The story of the burning bush has been interpreted in many different ways over the centuries, and has been the subject of much theological and philosophical speculation. One common interpretation of the story is that it represents a call to action and a challenge to resist oppression. In this reading, the burning bush symbolizes the Israelites' suffering and the need to resist the forces that seek to destroy them. Moses' role as a leader and prophet is seen as a model for resistance and liberation, and the miracles that God performs through him serve as a sign of the power of collective action. Another interpretation of the story focuses on the nature of God and the idea of divine revelation. The name that God gives to Moses, "I am who I am," has been interpreted as a declaration of God's eternal and unchanging nature, as well as a statement of his transcendence and otherness. The burning bush itself has been seen as a symbol of God's immanence, or his presence in the material world. The story of the burning bush has also been interpreted as a model for ethical and moral behavior. Moses' questioning of God's plan, and his reluctance to accept his role as leader, have been seen as expressions of humility and moral responsibility. The story of the burning bush continues to resonate in modern times, and has been interpreted and adapted in various ways to address contemporary concerns and issues. One example of the story's continued relevance is in its use as a symbol of resistance and liberation in the context of social justice movements. The burning bush has been used as a symbol of the struggle against oppression and injustice, and has been invoked in the context of struggles for civil rights, workers' rights, and other movements for social change. The story of the burning bush has also been adapted and reinterpreted in literature and popular culture. For example, the 1956 novel Exodus by Leon Uris, which was later adapted into a film, tells the story of the founding of the State of Israel and draws heavily on the themes of liberation and resistance found in the biblical narrative. In the world of popular music, the story of the burning bush has been referenced in various songs and lyrics, often as a symbol of spiritual awakening and transformation. For example, the reggae artist Bob Marley used the image of the burning bush in his song Burnin' and Lootin' to express his vision of a world free from oppression and violence. In recent years, the story of the burning bush has also been used as a metaphor for environmental activism and concern for the planet. The image of the burning bush has been seen as a symbol of the urgent need to address climate change and protect the earth from destruction. Overall, the story of the burning bush remains a powerful and enduring symbol of resistance, liberation, and divine revelation, and continues to inspire and challenge people in modern times. Whether read as a historical narrative, a religious text, or a source of cultural and artistic inspiration, the story of the burning bush offers a rich and complex vision of human experience and spirituality.